are live. We are here on another FanBros show. I probably messed that up, so we just don't start it again. Welcome to FanBros show, the only podcast out here where we talk about geek culture from the perspective of people of color. It is your boy, DJ Ben, aka Lightworth Yagami, Quantum Leech, aka Baybats, Professor Excellent. I'm messing it all up tonight. Premium Peter Parker, Chris Radner, Big Dick Grayson Energy, Black Goliath, YOLO Baggins, Lando Californication, The Ghost in the Shell Toe, Doctor Who's Man's is this? Here in the spaceship tonight. And since I just messed our whole intro up, I'm just trying to let my comrades take over.
Of course, Tatiana King Jones, the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as E Honda Civic, Princess Preach, Dame Diner Dash, Oprah Slim Free, Victoria's Secret Wars, Stone Cold Steve Flossin, Gem and the Holofan, T'Challa Bread, Queen of the Amazons, Prime Subscription, and Gin and Juice Urso.
And as always, we are joined by
Jeff J, aka Shaka Hulu, Miles Morasco, and Firestorm, LeVar Bourbon, Bagger Vance Astro, Fortnite Rider, Legion and Juice, and Dejaka Khan, Fax the Destroyer, and Neil Deadass Tyson.
Yes.
There we go. I know you've said Shaka Hulu before, but that one caught me.
It's still hilarious.
And like I said before, welcome to FanBros Show. Thank you to everyone out there who is subscribed on YouTube. You know what I do every week. You know, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button.
Hit
you know,
that
give
subscribe.
us that like.
Hit that like.
You know, oh, I like the extra movement you got there.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
Movement. Yeah, you gotta give them.
Post your comments, all that stuff. If it's an effed up comment, I'm deleting it.
Hit the subscribe.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Yo, we have to have a conversation about bad accents in cinema.
Wow, that's a good one. That is a good one.
That actually might be a panel. I'm gonna have to beep out that part. Okay, that's that's an idea that I'm not giving away to y'all. Okay.
I just remember the one when Rick first started on Walking Dead and his Australian accent would kick all the way through, all the way through. He was trying to do Georgia and it was straight Australian. He got it together though. He definitely got it together.
He was from Perth, Georgia. Sydney, Georgia.
Took a walkabout in Georgia. But no, we got it together. Like we said before, this is FanBros Show, voice of the urban geek, all that good stuff. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed, who's listening, new, old, everyone who's following us on Instagram at FanBros Show. The Instagram is popping. The Twitter is popping. You know, shout out to, the boys, but the brand is trying to brolic over here too. You know, we doing our thing right now. You know, I'm not saying, not Showtime deals and all that just yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Ooh, and, as always, man, oh, Lord, this one, yeah. I mean, that says it all, I don't think we really even spoke on this at all last week. We kind of just, kept our mouth shut and just waited it out. But the James Gunn firing from Guardians of the Galaxy is not going away anytime soon. Pretty much all the actors who were involved in the last two films came out today or yesterday with a letter where they expressed their support. I mean, went above and beyond the Call of Duty, basically. Because they could have easily just been like, yo, thanks, James. You did great work on the first two. We'll miss you, but, deuces. And they really went all the way out and were like, no, we love James. We really think Disney should hire him back.
Yeah. So just to get a little bit of backstory, years ago, I believe, was it 5-6 years ago, something like
10,
that?
Even 10.
Oh, worse. Okay. 10 years ago, he wrote a series of tweets where he basically made some pedophilia jokes. I believe he made molestation jokes as well. And for some reason, he decided to tweet these. Maybe he was testing material. I don't know. It's indefensible. You shouldn't be doing anything like that at all, let alone doing that on a public forum. And for some reason, people don't understand that even 10 years ago, places like Twitter are public forums. It's the same thing as you going outside and running around saying, kill all XYZ people or whatever. Like, it's the same thing as you running around yelling out all sorts of wild-ish that you wouldn't necessarily do in person. It's the same thing. And for some reason, people don't take the internet seriously. They still think the internet is an imaginary place. Still did when Twitter was in the first throes of being a social media network. Even though there wasn't a lot of people on it, there was enough people on it at the time. And now you see that whatever you've posted anytime at any point on the internet may and can be used against you in the court of law, in the court of public opinion, and elsewhere. So he did this. He said his statements. Again, I personally think it's indefensible to do. He did this, like you said, about 10 years ago, maybe back in 2015 or so. He actually put out a series of apologies about this. I'm not sure if he brought it up, somebody else brought it up, but he did. And this was during Guardians of the Galaxy 1? Mm-hmm. So this was during or right after or whatever the case may be, but this was during 1. So he did that. And at the time, there was no consequence as far as we can tell. There was no backlash from Disney. Disney didn't put a fine on him. They didn't fire him, all the other stuff. They essentially let him ride on that. I personally didn't even know this happened. I didn't even know any of this even happened until he got fired from the next Guardian of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now. I didn't even know any of this occurred until this brouhaha came about. And as Ben Hameen pointed out, this week, a few days ago even, Zoe Saldana, Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, and pretty much most of the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy came out in support of James Gunn. They put out which really was a nuanced letter expressing that they're not defending what he did. They agree that it was wrong, all this other stuff. At the same time, they feel like because he's always been a great honor, he meaning Gunn has always been a great honorable person to work with, and he's been this and he's been that. They feel strongly that without him, they cannot continue the Guardians of the Galaxy legacy, if you will. And they've basically asked Disney and the public to support reinstating Gunn.
I've known about this stuff since Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and there was also a blog post that he wrote where he rated like the Marvel and basically just comic book women on their like levels of being able to have sex and the different things. He made weird things where he talked about one character who is a lesbian and he hoped that Tony Stark could have sex with her to turn her out.
What?
Yeah, his tweets are beyond indefensible. Let me say that off the bat. Like, I'm like, it's some utterly disturbing shit, and it shows a side that I don't want to say that this man, it's like Kamal Bell's recent special where he was talking about, I don't want to say that they're racist, but and it's the same thing with this. Like, I don't want to say that this man is, has these type of interests, but why would you say these type of things? Their jokes weren't funny and they're just horrible. And once again, this is like, I just don't want to. I didn't want to say it, but I have to say it's like only a white man can get away with this. In the story, there is no way any person of color, any woman could get away with this type of stuff and to turn around and have the cast of a major movie stand up to Disney, the biggest conglomerate ever at this point.
Pretty much.
Besides something like Amazon. And, no one else is getting this type of love. No one is ever getting this type of support. If you said this wild shit.
Well, let me, I'm glad we're talking about this because we've been talking about a lot of these situations offline where I truly think I'm pretty much done with contextual conversation on Twitter because I've realized that people have their opinions and whether it's not really to have a nuanced conversation because I do think it's possible, but not for the majority of Twitter to have a nuanced conversation. And people are on there to argue their points and to be right, as opposed to hearing different perspectives and really trying to be enlightened. Having said that, looking at this from a contextual point of view, I think it is perfectly reasonable. We're humans, we're complex, we can do both, right? You can be revolted by his tweets and everything, those blog posts. This was like Super Saiyan level frat boy humor, right? Where it's not really funny and you're trying to be Howard Stern, shock jockish or whatever. It's peak that, right? You could be, it was horrible, it was reprehensible, it was every $1 million Merriam-Webster dictionary word that means that it was very bad. But you can also, on the other hand, look at why these tweets came back 6 years later and look at it from a contextual point of view. You had the Daily Caller, a right-wing publication, a right-wing website with Michael Cernovich, who is a racist, a homophobe, and who actually ironically supported a pedophile to go in office.
Mm-hmm.
You have this dude who, because James Gunn spoke up about Trump, he was like, yo, we're going to get him out of here. Because the thing that a lot of these right-wing, quote-unquote journalists do, and not even really journalists, just whatever they are, they will lament PC culture, but then try to weaponize quote-unquote PC culture and cancel culture to get people who are speaking out against things they like out the paint. And this is what happened with James Gunn. Now, a few things, and there's nothing wrong with stating that, because that's what happened. And you have to contextualize the source when this came out. Right. Now, a few things. I don't know how you make as much money as James Gunn's make, and you don't delete your tweets. You don't delete your tweets. It's $8. Tweet deleter. I am going to, in the words of a man who I'm going to keep anonymous, $8, save a life.
Really? Really?
Leader. Yo, understand this. If any organization throws me a bag and I'm not compromising my integrity, I might change my name to I'm too rich to talk to y'all on Twitter. I might start from tweet 0 like, yup, I got the bag. That's going to be my first tweet that you see.
Right.
So well, first. Secondly, I'm not really crying over James Gunn, because look at Chris Hardwick. Look at Bryan Singer. Look at all these dudes. Johnny Depp. Look at dudes who have been arguably for worse stuff that James Gunn got accused of. They're back on their feet. James Gunn is going to be perfectly fine. So I'm not going to cry over him. But I'm also not going to chastise the cast and crew for speaking up against him, because it's easy to dump on them and say, how could you support XYZ? But we also live in this world where we want people to take responsibility for what they do. We want them to do better. But then if they display that to people who they work with for years and years and years, and they feel like they know this person and want to step up with them, we chastise them. That makes me look at these people like, yo, I don't know if I would want them as friends.
Yeah. And that's true. It's in this world that we're in, this hyper localized social media world, which has essentially condensed the entire globe into when you say stuff online, you're either brought against a firing squad or you brought and made into a deity. There's really no in between. As you said, there's a lot of context that's missing. There's a lot of nuance that's missing. And I agree with your statement about that. It's okay to have many different viewpoints and varying points about it. I do understand that there's people who feel like it's completely black and white, that if you say you're not okay with this, but you're okay with that when it comes to one person, then we're just going to throw the entire baby out with the bathwater.
Baby away, crying and all that.
That very, and that's my personal understanding, like me as a person and my understanding of life. I used to be that way. But then when I have come to see the shades of gray in people and situations and all sorts of things, you got to start humanizing things. So that's why, like you said, I'm not going to go in on the cast. It's like, well, that's y'all decision. That's what y'all felt worked for you. Okay, fine. My concern, again, is that when people are sitting here, to your point, like running up, like crying over James and this and that, Disney made a business decision.
Facts.
Disney made a business decision. Disney is, as you say, one of the largest, as Ben said, one of the largest conglomerates, entertainment owners, whatever you want to say, in the world. Disney is synonymous with children. At the end of the day, Disney is synonymous with children, big kids, little kids, old kids, young kids. They're synonymous with children. And for someone who made statements about molestation and pedophilia, that is the exact antithesis of what Disney stands for. Now, you can sit here and argue why they didn't do that 10 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever, how many years ago, I don't have the answer for you. I don't know, because y'all knew this from Jump Street.
Twitter wasn't as lit.
The point is, right now, in this political and societal climate and social media climate, this is what happened. And also, when we go back to, as the resident tech artist here, I think it's vastly important when any app, feature, service, skill, whatever pops up online and you jump on it as a collective, you jump on it individually, you really read and understand what this is about, what this service, what this platform, what this whatever is about, how it works, what it needs from you in order to work, and who can see this information. And that's not to say that, oh, well, if it's public, you shouldn't say all the things you're thinking. It's like, if you're a trash person, you're going to be a trash person regardless. But don't be surprised if you're saying things on a public forum and it comes out years later publicly. Don't be surprised if things you've said about whatever in the past comes up when you're trying to get a bag because somebody don't like you.
Why do you think the advent of group chats ascended? Because I could talk with a group of my friends however I want to and not be chastised by Joe Blow in his mother's basement in Kentucky after he tended to the farm talking about I'm problematic. Like, that's a reason why a lot of these group chats popped off. If you think about it, like when people started falling off of Twitter and started using it as much, WhatsApp, GroupMe, all of those things, even when iMessage and all these group texts started popping, like that's when it really started to rise. But just like what you were saying, Tatiana, it's funny when I look at when people are like, it's all or nothing, right? The reason why we can't see the shades of gray is because we live in a world of filters, and people apply those filters how they see fit, and they fail to recognize their own shades of gray. And I understand that. And Disney was not messing up that Fox acquisition. It was not for me, not for you. Mickey could have said that, and Mickey would have been out. That's how real it is in this world, in this point. And Disney understood that, because you know what? 6 years ago, the world wasn't as attuned to these type of things as they were now. Like, you could get, he had filmed it already, and he had apologized for everything.
Right. And real talk, social media wasn't as weaponized.
Right.
The internet is both a tool and a weapon, as always has been, regardless of people realize it or not. Social media, especially now, is a very strong weapon, and people can weaponize anything you say, whether it's the best thing or the worst thing, on both sides of the aisle. So you have to be really understanding of what you're saying and using when you're on the internet, period. Doesn't matter what you're saying. You have to be fully cognizant of the platform that you're using, the people who are on it, and the information you're sharing or spreading, or whatever the case is. You have to be really cognizant. And if you're cognizant and you say, I accept the risk and responsibilities, just like how when you go skydiving and they make you check that box, do you accept the risk and responsibilities? And do you accept the fact that you may die by doing this activity? And you say, yup, I'm jumping out the window, I'm jumping out the plane. Same thing. And then perhaps that needs to be inserted when you sign up for services like Twitter. Besides the TOS that nobody reads anyway, the terms of service that nobody reads anyway, do recognize that your entire life can change based on one thing you may say. You may get doxxed. You may get famous. Nothing may happen, but you have to understand, one, and two, accept these risks. The moment you put yourself out there on social media, the moment you put yourself out there on the internet, it's there forever. I've said this on Twitter 30 million times, and I usually retweet myself every few years. The internet is forever.
Mm-hmm. And also, like what Jeff was saying about weaponization, and what you were saying too as well, about social media being so weaponized these days, and it's like a different world we live in. And that's what really bugs me out. Like, we were talking about how, it's like Cernovich, of course, all these people who use this stuff, they call people social justice warriors when you stand up for things like diversity and inclusion. They'll say that, they use it as this insult, and now becomes the thing where everyone uses these things as an insult, where we use it against each other. And like Jeff was saying, that's why I've kind of backed off Twitter as well, because we can't really have nuanced conversations. And I feel like we have enough real enemies out there as blurs, as ostracized people, that we don't need to be sitting here having these arguments over these little things on Twitter and then dividing ourselves even more when we have real issues to worry about. So like you said, Jeff, I'm not really trying to have all these arguments over things. I know I'm known as someone who loves to argue on Twitter, but I've just backed off it a lot lately, especially seeing how these type of things are coming up, because you wouldn't, like Tatiana said, you have no idea what you're going to say to someone that they're going to flip back on you years later, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
I've seen it in action, bro. And mind you, I work in sports. It's even worse. Like, bad sports takes are one thing, but I've learned that people ain't really trying to learn shit. They just want to argue with you.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to discern a conversation from an argument. And when you're able to do that, then you'll know who to interact with. Like, I have people on Twitter that I'll interact with all the time because I know that they're sensible. And even if they wild out, it's not from a place of trying to troll me, or at least troll me maliciously, because we all troll each other at some point, right? So that's why it's just like, it don't really pay. Like, you're not going to educate some of these racists. If anything, people that come in your mentions, if you want to try to catch them with a quick clapback or whatever, that's really what it is for your own self-indulgence. But past that, in terms of really edifying your mind and your knowledge of what you're talking about, it doesn't really pay. Like, I'm telling y'all right now, you just and that's the thing. We also have to. You have to insert context into all of these situations, because I've said it. I continue to say it on any platform that I've been in, from 2008 to probably around Obama's second inauguration. Twitter was the wild, wild west. Everybody was trash. Don't let anybody, even the Christian accounts were trash. Everybody, all the religious accounts were trash. Everybody was trash. Unless they deleted them already, we can find trash tweets from anybody who was out during that era. You are well within your right to leave them, or to grow as a person and say you're not that anymore. People who read those tweets are also within their right to say, you know what, you said this, I don't really mess with you. You know what I mean? Like, the people are within their right. So that's something that you have to accept as well. And I think it's something also to think about, how we don't want to see those type of things, but we'd rather people obscure them from us, and we keep a sense of who they are. Like, it's always our faves. You just want pins and needles. Like, yo, don't make no comments. Don't comment about politics. Don't comment about anything. Because the minute you say something out your mouth, I can't mess with you anymore. And I think it's ill to think about how we'd rather not know where people stand than to hear where they stand and have to make a decision on whether or not we mess with them like that.
All right, well, we've got much more for the show tonight, but right now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more FanBros Show.
FanBros.